Hello, third graders. Today we are going to be discussing lesson 12.5, quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals is exactly what the first part of this word quadrilaterals is, quad. Quad means four. Everything we are going to discuss today is a four-sided figure. All of these shapes are four-sided figures. So basically, all quadrilaterals will have four sides. Now, they can have different number of angles depending on what their shape is, but most will be four angles as well, depending on how you look at the shape. So here are some examples of quadrilaterals. That is a quadrilateral. This is a quadrilateral. Here is a quadrilateral. Here is a quadrilateral. Now there are also some weird shapes in there. You could have this shape as a quadrilateral. Okay, I'm trying to draw that a much straighter than it is. That's a bent line, but I'll try to draw it straighter. Okay, four sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. None of these are the same length. It's just a weird shape. We also have this quadrilateral. Four sides, all straight sides. These are all polygons. So they still fit within the polygon because straight sides and they're closed shapes. All of these are quadrilaterals because they have four sides. Now the angles, most all of them will have four angles as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. These happen to be right angles like we have discussed. These happen to be right angles as we have discussed. These are not necessarily right angles. Here we have an angle here, an angle here, and an angle here. Some people will also say that this is an angle. It's an outside angle. So the interior angles, we only have 3 angles here. And some people will say that this is also an angle. That is a very large, obtuse angle, greater than 180 degrees. But for our purposes, we will say that these have 3 angles. But this one technically is 4. So they may say that you should have 4 sides and 4 angles in your quadrilaterals. Let's discuss the types of quadrilaterals there are today. First, we have the trapezoid. The trapezoid is a special shape because it has one pair of parallel sides. Do not get freaked out when they say pair of parallel sides, and what do they mean? They mean that somewhere on the shape, and as you can see, I'm extending those out forever, there is a pair of lines. Pair means 2. This line and this line is a pair of lines. They do not have to be the exact same length for these line segments, I should say. They are not the same length, but if I extended them forever, like I just did with the brown here, then these would be parallel lines. They are not going to hit each other. They are not going to connect. These lines over here that I will mark in orange, this one and this one, I used different numbers to show they aren't the same length, and they are not parallel. Just this one and this one are parallel. That is a pair of parallel sides. This is a trapezoid. So it has its 4 sides. There is another trapezoid shape. I will draw this next one here. Here is another trapezoid. I'll do this one in green. And in this case, I'm going to try to make that straighter here. There we go. These two are the parallel sides. If I would draw them even better, you would see that those are parallel. They're not supposed to touch each other. These over here are not parallel. So we have a pair of parallel sides in our trapezoid. One pair. All right, let's take a look at a few more shapes that are quadrilaterals. Let's do the one I know you are very familiar with. Good old-fashioned rectangle. The rectangle is a special quadrilateral it has two things that are special about it. Number one, it has 4 right angles. Each of its angles is a right angle, so 4 right angles. It must have 4 right angles to be a rectangle. If it does not have 4 right angles, then it's some other shape. Now, besides that, it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. This is a pair of parallel sides, and if we go to the side, this is a pair of parallel sides. So these two right here are parallel. They're small, they're short, but if we extended them out forever, you would notice that these two lines will never touch. We also have another pair of parallel lines, these two together. Again, pair means 2, and these two are parallel. They're not going to touch. So we have 2 pair meaning 2, and there's 2 of them, 2 pair of parallel side. That is a rectangle. Rectangles come in any shapes, or excuse me, many sizes, shape being the same. I could draw a rectangle this way and be small. Let's try that. There is an up and down. And this one, assuming that I can draw straight, these two are parallel. And these two lines, way up here and way down here, these ones are parallel. So we have 2 pair of parallel sides. All right, continuing on. Let's take a look at good old rhombus. Oh, I dropped my pen. Let's look at the rhombus. The rhombus is a special shape in that it is a quadrilateral, it is a polygon, it has 4 sides, and it has 2 pair of parallel sides. These are parallel, and these are parallel, but not only that, all the sides are the same length. In other words, this line and this line and this line and this line all equal the same amount. So 4 sides of same length. Remember on the rectangle, we had some long sides and some short sides. Here, all of them are the same. You will notice that we have 4 angles, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, our parallel sides. These two are parallel. And even though they're slanted, let's look at these right here. Those would be parallel. You can see that they would never touch, they would never cross. So these 2 lines are also parallel. These are your pairs, pair 1 and pair number 2, parallel sides. This is a rhombus. Kind of a weird spelling with the RH there, but a rhombus, 4 sides of the same length, 2 pairs of parallel sides. Which brings us to our most special shape of all. The most special shape of all, of course, is our square. I have a square here, but I'm going to draw one as well because it's a little bit bigger. The square. Okay. If, let me see if I can make that a little bit straighter. There we go, and we'll go down the side here like this. Boom. Close enough. The square is special because it has 4 right angles. I guess my brown is done. It has 4 right angles. It has all the same length sides. And this part's important, it has two pairs of parallel sides. These two sides are parallel, and these two sides are parallel. 1 and 2. Now a square, 4 right angles, it has all sides equal. Each of these sides is the same length. Can you think of another shape that had all 4 sides the same length? Yes, the rhombus. The square is a special type of rhombus. Every square you see is actually also a rhombus. So when you see a square, it is a rhombus as well. Additionally, since it has 4 right angles, it is also a rectangle. A square is a rhombus and a rectangle at the same time. Very few shapes will be more than one thing. But it is important to note that. So let's take a look at a little something here. Today's lesson is going to ask you questions about things being all or some, and this is a little confusing. So if it said they want to know that all or some, you're going to fill in the blank. So in this case, squares are rectangles. All squares are rectangles, or some squares are rectangles? Well, okay, we have a square. Is every square you see, every single one, whether it's huge, big, small, fat, tall, doesn't matter, any square you see, is that a rectangle? The answer is all squares. It doesn't matter which one I pick. It is a rectangle. Not just some squares are rectangles. Now, if I wrote this opposite and said rectangles are squares, blank rectangles are squares, now we've changed this around a little bit. Are all rectangles squares? There's a rectangle I just drew. Is that rectangle a square? No. Is this rectangle a square? No. Is this rectangle a square? Yes. So in this case, some rectangles are squares. This is a difficult concept to get in there because you have to be thinking that these shapes can sometimes fit into more than one category, which is very true. I will discuss a little bit more of that tomorrow. But for the most part, be looking and at your shapes and trying to identify where they fit in. This would be a trapezoid discussed earlier. Parallel sides here and here. You can see them here. This would be a rhombus. All 4 sides are the same length. Here's a pair of parallel sides, and here's a pair of parallel sides. And lastly, of course, we have our square, our special shape because it's a square, but it is also a rectangle because of its 4 right angles. And it's also a rhombus because of all the sides are the same length.